Hi, I'm Miley Cyrus. You've probably heard some of my songs like Wrecking Ball, The Climb, and Flowers from my latest chart-topping album, Endless Summer Vacation. Although my most loyal fans have known me since my Disney Channel days. This story isn't about me though. Today I'm narrating the life of a young star from the South, just like me. I'll tell you why later. For now, please like and subscribe. I know all about being famous at a young age, and trust me, no glory comes without blood, sweat, and tears, and Scarlett Spencer was no exception. Her journey to stardom began in a small town in Texas. Her mother passed away long ago. Still, she grew up happily with her dad who owned a little diner, and her baby sister Naomi. These two were polar opposites. The quiet, introverted Scarlett helped out at the diner, while Naomi, who was in high school, lived and breathed social media. "Give me a phone, mine's out of juice." Man, this brick's been only to call and text for years. It should have something new. In case you still haven't figured it out, well, Naomi's creating an Instagram account under her sister's name to post pics. "Give it back! I need it now!" "Naomi, I already said I don't like social media. What's with this photo and the Ritz-Carlton and ridiculous caption? We were just there for Dad's delivery." "Relax. Everybody has a social media presence these days. That photo will get you tons of hearts and followers." Honestly, if my sister ever did that to me, she would have been 6 feet under by now. But Scarlett let Naomi off the hook, because to her, Naomi was her bestest friend, who she could tell everything to, while Scarlett was the best sister she could ask for. Naomi knew she'd never find anyone else who'd satisfy her every whim like that. They frequented this spot by the lake for a stroll, a jog, or simply pouring their hearts out. "I want to go where culture is, like New York or LA. The only thing exciting in this town is probably a party bus that comes by every millennium." "You're a big dreamer, and that's good, but isn't a peaceful and quiet life nice too?" Bless their hearts. They have no idea what's in store for them, but it's really hard to imagine that their uneventful lives could change. All of a sudden, when their dad got in an accident and lost his job, with no relatives, the family was dealt the worst hand. Scarlett alone couldn't manage the diner, Dad's medical bill, as well as Naomi. Then one day, their dad set them down, looking seriously insistent. "I know that this is a lot to take in, but your mother, she's still alive. This is her." "What?" "We got divorced and cut all ties long ago. I never spoke of it 'cause it's too complicated. Now that your old man is in this situation, you should go to your mother and shouldn't have to suffer because of me." Both of them were too shocked to speak. Scarlett went to her room, the photo squeezed tightly in her hand. "Is this really my mother? When are we leaving?" "What are you excited about? All we have is this address and her photo. What if she won't accept us as her daughters? She abandoned us all those years, remember?" "It's still worth a try. Do you know, I've lost count how many times I've wished for a mother. And then this happened, like a miracle." Scarlett tossed and turned all night because of what her father revealed just now, while Naomi thought long and hard about what she would wear. The next morning, the sisters got up early and went to the address on the note, which led them to a magnificent building, Elite Talent Management. They stepped inside with bewilderment written all over their faces. "Excuse me, we're looking for Mrs. Athena Kinsley." "Perfect timing. Miss Kinsley's here this week for our statewide audition. In fact, she's right behind you." They were both in awe to see a woman who exudes sophistication and confidence. Naomi rushed to her. "Excuse me, ma'am, are you Athena Kinsley?" The woman gracefully turned around, lowered her shades, and scanned them both from head to toe. "Hello, I'm Naomi Spencer, and this is my sister Scarlett. We, believe you're our mother. Does the name Joseph Spencer ring any bell to you? He's our dad. He told us to come find you." That was awkward, but they got a reaction out of the Ice Queen. She was shooketh, but quickly regained composure. "You two, come with me. Clear my schedule." The girls followed her with uncertainty. When they reached the elevator, everyone inside immediately got out. Some of them even bowed to her. During the elevator ride, Scarlett and Naomi looked at each other in confusion about this lady who's supposedly their mother. Athena got down to business as soon as the door closed. "I thought your father wanted you to forget that I existed. But here you are. Start talking." While Scarlett talked, Naomi looked around Athena's office with great excitement. Her eyes lit up when she saw a photo of Athena with Beyoncé. Did you work with Beyoncé?" "Yes, she's still one of my clients. Miley Cyrus, Jennifer Lawrence, Britney Spears. I've worked with all of them." Surprise! The truth's finally out. I actually agreed to tell this story to return a favor Athena did for me when I parted ways with Disney. Rough times, but totally worth it. Okay, continue. "As I was saying, Dad needs physical therapy and a private nurse, but we can afford neither. He needs your help. Mom?" "This is the first time we've spoken in so long, and you're just asking for money? I'm afraid it can't be that easy." Really? This is our father, your ex-husband. Jeez, why did I even bother coming here asking the person who abandoned us for help? Naomi, we're leaving. Sit down. I didn't say no, but I won't hand you a huge bag of cash for nothing. Instead, you can work for it. You do have a pretty face and quite a feisty character, and I have everything you'd need to get far in this business. How does that sound? That took a turn, but Naomi was even more surprised than I am. Why isn't Mom asking her, but only her sister? Her introverted anti-social media sister? No thanks. I want a nice breezy life and zero limelight. We'll figure something out. Without you! On their way home, Naomi kept nagging Scarlett for refusing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She left us! That was the first time we met after so long, yet she didn't fake a smile and even try to exploit us. Can't you see that? No! You assume she abandoned us. Dad kept her a secret all these years, so we must have lied about that too. Mom's offer is a win-win deal. Don't you see how respected she is? Despite seeing Naomi's point, Scarlett was still stubborn. The way I see it, they don't have much time to argue, because right at that moment, their dad was having a heart attack. Luckily, the girls arrived home right on time and brought him to the ER. After hours in the ICU, his condition became stable, but needed further observation. Scarlett's face got paler with every word the doctor said about her father's treatment. I'm no accountant, but this bunch of hospital bills surely sounds bad. Sis, Mom's offer still stands. Do something before it's too late. Scarlett reluctantly came to see Athena again. Before signing, Scarlett had a few demands. She'd receive a fair cut of the profit and will not owe Athena anything once the contract is no longer in effect, as well as a signing advance. Also, per contract, Athena would be Scarlett's manager. This is actually very common. My mom Tish has been my manager to this day, but that's me. I can't talk about her case. Scarlett immediately transferred her dad to the best hospital in Texas. Looking at his unconscious state, she got all the motivation she needed before leaving for the city, thoughts about her future swirling in her mind. From the start, Scarlett said she didn't want anyone to know they're related. Athena, being the professional she was, agreed. Then, Operation Ultimate Fashionista commenced. First off, an extensive daily workout for 3 hours with a personal trainer. Scarlett was used to physical labor, so she didn't break a sweat. But when she found out about the strict diet she had to follow, Scarlett realized she's in hell. What's wrong with you? You make me work out but don't let me eat? Silly girl. Don't you know the camera's at 10 pounds? You'll look like a manatee in your photos unless you lose weight. Almost forgot. Scarlett moved into Athena's mansion for her private training, while Naomi stayed home for school. At the moment, Scarlett was lonely on an empty stomach. I can understand how she's feeling, because I went through the same ordeal when I started touring at age 13. Scarlett decided to sneak out in the middle of the night to search for food. However, Athena was one step ahead and already locked the pantry. Hey, sis, you caught me in the middle of my midnight supper. Oh my God, this food is bussin'. Anyway, how's Dad? I can't hear you. What's the weird noise? The sound of my pain and suffering. Watching you mukbang sure made it worse. Bye! And I'm sick of this food and this life. I need to find out how I can move to the city. Meanwhile, poor Scarlett could only sleep off her hunger, as she had to be up at 6 for training. Show business doesn't only demand talent and looks, but also the ability to handle being in the public eye. Sometimes you're a slip of tongue away from fading into oblivion. Media training was invented so we can learn to be public figures. That entire morning was spent on correcting Scarlett's posture, walk, and mannerisms. One more time, action! Hi, besties! Get ready with me to go to a ball! Stop! What now? Your accent. It's too distracting. Should we get rid of it? Perhaps tone it down a bit. It'll make her stand out, but we don't want too many risks. Risks? This is how I talk! Not anymore. That's enough for today. Thanks for coming in. Scarlett, of course, had no say in any of this. Now Athena's the one driving, and Scarlett's only in the passenger seat. Is she trying to make me a star or a slave? Can't she at least not look like Grumpy Cat and sound like a dictator all the time? Jeez, I have to learn strange stuff and change so much about myself. There's nothing wrong with my weight or accent. What's all this for? Sis, everyone who wants to be famous has to learn everything you just said. And the people Mom works with are all big names in the industry. So cool. Mom? To her, I only exist during business hours. I'm sure she wants the best for you. How about this? Ask her if I could come live with you. I could be your mediator. The responsible big sister side of Scarlett thought that's not a great idea, but the lonely teenager in her was craving some company. So, she asked and got Athena's approval right away. Naomi coming here is like returning to her natural habitat. This is amazing! Thanks, Mom! I can't wait to see this city. I don't have time to show you around. But here, take a cab and buy yourself something. Is it just me, or does she seem to get along much better with Mom? I totally see it too, Scarlett. When Scarlett's image became much more marketable, Athena got her first ever fashion photo shoot. But since this was Scarlett's first time modeling, she struggled the whole day but couldn't seem to have any good shots. Let's try again. Remember, we want clean, athletic, smiley. Yeah, and she's giving dirty, tired, and paunchy. Everyone take 10. That's it! Look at all this stuff, guys. Isn't it crazy? Ah! What's wrong? Talk to me. I can't take this anymore. She is vicious. She doesn't give a flying crap that I beat myself up trying and orders me around like a puppet. This is draining me day by day. I'm exhausted. Naomi could only offer little comfort pats while listening to Scarlett's rant, but she's secretly thinking that her sister didn't know this was the life that others would kill to have. Little did Scarlett know, Naomi came to Athena immediately afterward. Mom, I want to be famous too. Make me. Sorry, that's a no. What does Scarlett have that I don't? I can do everything she does with a smile. You're only seeing this at a surface level. Scarlett's got that X factor. That's why I chose her. She's special, and you're not. That's it. She doesn't want that anyway. Who says? Show me. Never mind. Naomi sulkily walked out when she ran straight into Scarlett. What on earth happened? You wouldn't understand. This time, Scarlett got a better grip of the job and became more confident. Then her followers grew quickly when she had a few viral videos. Those numbers translate to more high-profile promo campaigns and countless PR packages from brands. Most of her free PR stuff went to Naomi, though. Scarlett got recognized and asked for photos more often whenever she went out, and she gradually and strangely loved it. Athena seemed to be satisfied and not giving her a hard time anymore, and even flashed the first smile. Most importantly, there's more money to go towards their dad's treatment. Thanks, my darlings. The doctors could proceed with every necessary procedure, so I'll be discharged any day now. By the way, does your mother treat you well? She better. Soon you won't need to bend over backwards anymore. When Dad gets better, this will all be over? Why do I suddenly feel kinda empty? Are you not happy to see Dad get better? What? No! Of course I'm happy for him! Right then, Naomi saw something that could change everything. What's that? Nothing. Scarlett's on cloud 9 to see all those times of intensive training, diet, and exercise finally bear fruits. Today, Athena even called her to her office. Maybe she wants to discuss the next trip, or plan to move to LA. I want to terminate our contract, effective immediately. What? What? You'll be compensated for this untimely breach of contract, which would be enough to cover everything, and— Hold on, why? You're no fit. Am I not getting more popular? What do you mean? You won't last. But it can still be a source of income. Why cut it completely? More profit for you too, right? Isn't that your sole target in doing this? Or are you afraid that I'll come back to bite you once I've made it? Watch your tongue. Regardless, we won't be working together. That's final. Tell me, are you scared people will figure out that I'm your daughter? Right, you never even came to see my frail, bedridden father. I never needed a mother like you anyway. Then a smack landed on Scarlett's face. She held her left cheek, eyes wide open, and glared at the person standing in front of her with great fury.
Hey, my name's Kelly, and I'm so excited to start high school. Yes, I get it. Most kids my age feel the same way, but for them, it's all about proms, later curfews, getting their own car, and having a cute boyfriend or girlfriend. Okay, so those things sound great too, but the thing I'm most excited about is joining a cool club, a music one to be exact. You see, since I was little, I had this dream of being part of an awesome club like in Glee. Finally, school started. I was so eager to dive into this new environment, but it took me a few days till I could get a clue of where the music club office was or how to apply for it. No one seemed to know, to be honest, or maybe it's because I've only been asking freshmen who were just as lost as me. Anyway, after a lot of pacing the hallways, I found a room that said music club on the door. Well, it actually said MSIC Club, as the U was missing, but it had to be it, right? I couldn't contain my excitement. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. Hello, everyone. What was this? I took one quick scan around the room, as there's not much to look at anyway. There was a rusty guitar in the corner, a dusty drum set, and some rackety old chairs. 3 girls were sitting separately. One girl greeted me shyly, so I went and sat next to her. She said, "Hi, I'm Daisy. I play guitar and sometimes the bass. I love ballads, you know." Then this one girl who was painting her nails interrupted her. "Ballads are the worst." She rolled her eyes. "But luckily for you guys, I sing a mean pop tune." Daisy turned to me and whispered, "That's Mia, and I'm not really sure if she can really sing though." The only other girl in the room had her headphones in and was dancing weirdly. Daisy told me she was called Jill and she could kind of play the drums. I looked around the room of misfits once again, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really disappointed. This wasn't what I imagined. I told myself it was okay, and that more kids might join up later on in the term. I mean, it wasn't the easiest club to find, so it might take some time. That's all. Besides, this was my chance to claim leadership here. So, without wasting any time, I gathered them all up for a little discussion. Then I started with introducing myself. Hey guys, I'm Kelly. I started play organ since 8. I've been trying to learn to compose songs too. There was not much reaction except for Daisy's shy claps. I then continued, so, we should have a team leader, right guys? Let's cast our votes. Everyone will have a minute to talk about why they should be the leader. Daisy nodded her head, Mia rolled her eyes and mouthed, whatever. And Jill, well, she still had her headphones on, so I took the lead. Okay, so I'll start then. I think as the president of this club, I will... Mia cut my words. Fine, you're it, whatever. Who else votes for Kelsey? Hands up. I started saying, my name is Kel. Mia raised her hand and then shook it out so her nails could dry. Jill raised her hand even though I don't think she actually knew what she was voting for. And Daisy raised hers while shyly adding, I think you'll be a great leader, Kelly. I'm too shy anyway, so you'll have my full support. Well, okay, that was easy, so I'm a club president now. That will look so good on my portfolio. Now, I will bring back this club from oblivion. We will revive it. I'll have my own high school musical. I was actually excited. As soon as I got home, I went through my song list and picked out some good ones. Then I texted the girls to bring their instruments in the following day. But then at practice, all my dreams came crashing down. Daisy was right. Mia's singing voice was terrible. But she couldn't play an instrument, so I had to let her take center stage, which she loved, as she clearly liked the spotlight. But then Jill folded her arms and refused to play. She can't stand there. She's covering me entirely. The drum is the soul of the song. Duh, I should be center. This annoyed Mia and they started bickering. I left them to it and went over to Daisy. Please tell me you can sing, can you? We gotta do something. Mia couldn't be the only vocalist. We'll be doomed. Daisy looked stunned. She shook her head continuously. No, I can't do that. It's already such a big challenge for me to play in public. I can't sing. I tried convincing her that she could sing backing vocals with me, and she'd be fine. In the end, she agreed, but only if she could wear a mask on stage. What? Fine, I shouted. Fine. Guys, Daisy, it's okay. You can put a mask on while performing until whenever you feel comfortable. And you two, no need to fight. I'm sure the stage is big enough for you both to be in the spotlight. This is just a practice session. No one is here to see you. Just put up with it for a bit. Then when we're on stage, we'll figure it out. They all mellowed down a bit, thankfully. Geez, talk about draining. So, over the next few weeks, we got to work, and OMG, what a clash of personalities. I felt like I was the glue holding us all together, and it was so exhausting. Mia wanted to practice in the morning, but Jill wanted to meet in the afternoon, so I suggested doing a morning one day and an afternoon the next practice day. Then there was a song choice. Mia and Daisy were keen on a Taylor Swift song, but Jill tried to rock it up and made it sound awful. I compromised by letting her have a drum solo in the middle of it. They were hard work, but the strange thing is, I was actually beginning to like them all. Mia gave us all style tips and even let me borrow her lip gloss. Jill always recommended us some really interesting Netflix series to watch. Daisy made us homemade snacks to munch on during practice while I helped them out with their homework. Besides all the bickering, there were definitely friendships blossoming there. The problem is our band sucked. We'd only performed twice during break time at the school basketball game, but no one even noticed us, not while the dance team was performing. They were so in sync, and this one kid could do the splits. I mean, how could we compete with that? Then finally, the prom came. This was our big shot. We prepared a lot and practiced hard for it. We even went picking out prom dresses together, thinking about how glorious we would all look on stage performing in these gorgeous dresses. Before our performance was the dance team's, so we couldn't set up our instruments beforehand since they said they would be in their way. So as soon as they finished, we had to rush on stage with our instruments. Trust me, this is not as easy as it sounds, especially when all of us, well, apart from Jill, were in long puffy dresses. Talking about Jill, she chose to wear this cape instead and it kept on getting tangled up and messing her rhythm. Daisy was distracted by the lights, so she messed up all the notes, and me, while I was playing, suddenly my keyboard stand collapsed. I guess due to being in a rush, it wasn't properly set up earlier. I had to improvise and immediately sat down to continue to play, and then Mia was too into it and sang off-key while dancing, which made her out of breath. It was a literal disaster. Seriously, it was so bad the baffled crowd gave a mixture of chuckles and amazed gasps. This is not how I envisioned it to go. Afterward, we walked in silence back to the music room to drop off our instruments. Then Jill said, "I told you the prom dresses were a bad idea. Not only did you sound awful, but you look stupid too." Mia was fuming as she replied, "Says the girl in the stupid cape. Since when has the Count Dracula look ever been good?" Jill said, "At least I have talent. You're tone deaf." "I am not. It's not my fault I have terrible backing singers." "Yeah, right, Mia. Was that what you call singing? All you did was dance and scream. This ain't a nightclub." Mia fought back. "My fault? What did I do? It's all because all you played so awful, so I had to try my best to stir up the crowd. And you," she turned to me, "were you on stage to chill? Who on earth sits while performing?" "Me? Now you're blaming me? You were the one who set up the keyboard stand for me. It's because you didn't do it properly. Lucky for you, my keyboard is still okay." "Never mind, guys. Let's not. Hey, you guys should have taken care of your own instruments. Don't blame me. Even if I sang off key, it was because you guys played terribly." "Who chose this song? It was too hard for us." Okay, let's stop blaming each other and focus on figuring out how to improve ourselves, or else I doubt that the school will let us perform in any event ever again. Again? Isn't this enough to call it a day? This stupid club shouldn't even exist. I'm out of here. I quit. Me too. What a waste of time. Bye, losers. Ditto. Sorry, Kelly, but I can't do this anymore. I could only stand there and shout as they walked through the door. "Guys, are you kidding me right now? Guys! Okay then, just leave. To hell with this club." My Glee Club dreams were over. Yet I just stayed there wondering what I was meant to do now. This was the worst day ever. But it was okay. I joined another club. Maybe the dance club. I mean, I couldn't dance all that well, but I could learn, couldn't I? The Monday after, we all went to the club room to grab our stuff. The four of us didn't say a word to each other. It was super frosty. Then out of nowhere, this guy stepped in. Well, not just any guy. Cole Henderson, the hottest boy in freshman year. At first, I thought he was lost, but then he said, "Hey guys, is this the room for music club?"
Hi, I'm Ella, and I'm 17. Have you ever been brave enough to change the things that you were too familiar with? If yes, did you encounter any difficulties? Well, for me, yeah. It's more than just changes. And this is the story of what happened to me last summer. And it's really crazy, so brace yourself. So, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania. When I say small, I mean it. It only had a population of 85 people. There was just one gas station, 2 small parks, 1 grocery store, and, oh yeah, only 1 school. Including me, there were only 7 kids in my grade. That's right, 7 people. And my grade was one of the biggest ones. From when I was 5 years old to the time I was 15, I spent most of my time with the same 6 classmates. After being with them for many years, most of them really started to get on my nerves. Well, apart from Rosie. Rosie and I became BFFs in 3rd grade. Some other kids were teasing me about my red hair and told me that I looked like a tomato. But then Rosie appeared by my side and told them to back off. From then on, we became best friends and were pretty much inseparable. My life was good. I felt safe in my little town where everyone knew each other. In a city, there were way too many people for my liking, and too much pressure to be popular, and I didn't want that. I knew a small-town life was the life for me. But then, when I was 16, everything changed. On one Saturday afternoon, I was at Rosie's house watching a movie when my parents called me and told me to come home at once. I thought this was kind of weird because my parents didn't usually call me to come home until it was late at night. And right now, it was only 4:30 p.m. What did they need me to come home for? I arrived home to find Jake, my brother, crying. I bursted out loud. What happened? What was going on? Seeing me totally in shock, my dad said, Ella, we have some news. What news was bad enough to make my brother, who wasn't the emotional type, cry? Did someone have a serious illness? Had someone died? Oh no. Had my beloved dog Sally died? Then he said, Ella, I've been offered a job in New York City. What? I yelled. And he's taking it. This is an amazing opportunity for us all. And moving out of this town will be good for us. It'll be a great adventure, Mom said. New York? The biggest city in the entire country? No, I couldn't move there. I didn't want a new adventure. I was perfectly happy where we lived now, and I didn't want to leave. But however much I sulked, shouted, or pleaded with my parents to stay, their minds were made up, and we were moving. Telling Rosie was horrible. She got so upset, and I felt awful about it. I didn't want to leave her, but what choice did I have? I spent my last day in town with her. We ate pizza, watched our favorite movies, played our favorite video games, and things like that. When it was time for me to leave, I gave her my unicorn plushie to remember me by. Then we cried into each other's arms, and we promised to text each other every single day. So, I left the safety of my little town and moved to the city. Our new house was much smaller than my old one, but at least we could keep Sally. On my first day of school, I was terrified. There were so many people, and I didn't know where I was meant to go or what I was meant to do. Luckily, the kids there were actually really nice. This one girl showed me where my locker was, and some other kids let me sit with them at lunchtime. After only a few weeks of living in New York, I started to find my bearings. I even figured out how to navigate the underground. I made some pretty great friends, but this didn't change the fact that Rosie was still my BFF. I texted her every day, and sometimes we spent hours on the phone with each other. A month of city life passed, and I got talking to this boy in my English class called Alex. He had the most amazing blonde hair, and his eyes, they were blue like the sky and the ocean, and a swimming pool, and yeah, if you couldn't tell, I really liked Alex. Not only was he unbelievably cute, but he was also kind and funny. We bonded over our love of video games and dogs, and soon became pretty close. Then one day, he invited me over to his apartment to hang out. Then over a giant pizza and a movie, he told me he liked me and asked me to be his girlfriend. I instantly said yes! I was so excited and couldn't wait to tell Rosie, but she didn't seem all that thrilled about it. For a few months, everything was perfect for me. School life was great, and I had some awesome friends and an amazing boyfriend. Sadly, though, Rosie and I grew further apart. I barely had time to talk to her hours on the phone every night. It was like our timeline became different. She always called when I was busy, and when I texted her back, she wasn't there. I know that she always cared about me, but my busy life just carried me away. I told myself this was okay as things change. People get different friends. Though not as often as before, Rosie and I still chatted whenever we had a chance. One time I told her that I would be going out with Alex at a fancy restaurant the next day. Anytime I mentioned Alex, she seemed not cool with it. But that time she expressed her excitement and asked me a lot about our date. That made me feel so good. When the day came, I went to meet Alex at the restaurant that he had booked for us. I entered and waited for about 20 minutes for him to show. I began to get impatient and asked a waiter if he'd seen a boy with blonde hair and blue eyes come in at all. The waiter told me he had, but he'd left with a tall girl with long brown hair and brown eyes. What? Who was the girl he left with? And why? I thought of everyone I knew who fit that description. I couldn't think of anyone. Except for Rosie. But she lived in Pennsylvania. Why would she be here talking to my boyfriend? I decided to call Alex, but he sounded muffled, and I heard a girl talking in the background. It sounded like they were arguing, and then the call ended. This was so weird. What happened? I had no idea what was going on, so I headed home. On my way, I felt like someone was following me. And then I realized that there was one car driving very slowly after me. When I tried stopping, it also stopped. Oh my God. Was it having anything to do with me? I felt terrified and started to run as quick as I could until I reached my house. I turned back and saw that car parked outside my house. I was shaking as I tried to open the door. And as I did, Sally zoomed past me and ran toward the car. I had only seen her act that way whenever Alex came over. She really liked Alex. Wait, Alex? That was it. Alex was in that car. Was it a prank? I ran over to see what the heck was going on. There, sitting in the driver's seat, was Rosie. And to my complete shock, Alex was tied up in the back seat. "Rosie!" I screamed. "What are you doing here in New York with my boyfriend?" Alex screamed, "Help! She told me you were waiting for me in her car, then she kidnapped me." Rosie quickly turned around and looked me right in the face. "Oh, hi, Ella. What are you doing with my boyfriend?" "He's not a good guy for you, Ella. I need you to break up with him now, or else I will drive away so you can never find him ever." "Are you crazy? We will not break up just because you demand me to do that. Now let him go." I walked around to the passenger door to get Alex, but then the car started moving, fast. I ran after the car, but I was too slow. But Sally ran after it too, and she didn't stop. She almost got hit by cars as she ran through traffic until she was out of sight. I was so scared. I was about to call the cops when I saw a police car zoom past me. How did they know about this already? Who called 911? I looked back and saw my mom standing outside with the phone waving at me nervously. She had seen all the commotion and called the cops. Thanks, Mom. There was nothing I could do now except wait. It was awful. I was so anxious. About an hour later, a cop car pulled up to our house. The cop stepped out and opened the back door, and out came Sally. I ran up to the police car and hugged Sally. She was safe, but what about Alex? The officer told me that they'd chased the car for almost 2 miles until they cornered it on a dead-end street. He said that Rosie was very fierce and tried resisting arrest, but they'd taken her to the station. To my relief, Alex was fine, and they dropped him back home. Phew. I just didn't understand it. Rosie was my best friend. Why would she try to seriously harm my boyfriend? I later found out that Rosie was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's a disorder that causes people to go through extreme mood swings and do things that are out of character and crazy. Rosie had a lot going on. As well as me not being around anymore, her dad had moved out. I didn't know this as she hadn't told me. Back then, I wasn't talking all that much to her, but I'd never expected that the separation Rosie felt was too much for her and could lead her to bipolar disorder. I was her only one at that time, so she wanted her to be my only one too. But Alex appeared and made her feel insecure and seriously jealous. It is fortunate there are no serious consequences. I really hope Rosie gets the proper treatment for her disorder. We might not be as close anymore, but in my eyes, she'll always be the girl who was there for me when I was being teased, and I will always regret that I wasn't there to listen to her more when she needed me. I still feel sad about it all, but I'm trying to see the positives. Things with Alex are going great, and I'm happy here. It turns out city life is for me after all. Whether it's in friendship or love, people still need their own space. And sometimes, as sad as it is, people do grow apart. This happens in life. Being overjealous doesn't help mend things. It just pushes the other person further away.
Hi guys, I'm Austin, and I'm a 23-year-old college student. I guess my school years went by pretty smoothly, as I had my best friend Jake by my side. When we're not partying and living large, me and him would work part-time at this local restaurant. The pay was pretty dismal, but it funded some fun nights out at least. My story starts as many do, with a cute girl. And I'm talking Ariana Grande pretty. Me and Jake first spotted her one day in the coffee shop that we always dropped by on our way to work. Neither of us could quit staring at her. She must have noticed us too, as instead of leaving, she turned back, smiled in our direction, then walked over to the counter and ordered another drink to go. She was obviously doing this because she wanted to talk to me, so I rushed over there to start a convo. The problem was Jake tagged along too, and offered to pay for her drink. Ugh. She seemed flattered, smiled, then thanked us both. Then I was about to ask her for her number, but she rushed off as she said, "Gotta go, my Uber's here." It was such a bummer. All I knew about her was that she was the hottest girl ever, and her name was Darcy. Well, that was the name written on her takeout cup. Feeling a bit deflated, me and Jake walked back to our table. But as we passed the table she'd been sitting at, we saw a phone. I presumed it was hers, and she left it there, so I lunged for it before Jake could. He looked so annoyed. Ha! Now the chance to see her again is mine. The phone was locked, but I was sure she'd call any minute now. I wanted to wait for her to come back and look for it, but I had to get to work. I kept the phone in the pocket of my apron throughout my shift, just in case she called, and also so Jake wouldn't get his hands on it and try and steal my girl. During our break time, I sat down with Jake and we looked at the phone for a bit. Yeah, I know it was locked, so there wasn't much to see. However, even on the lock screen, we could see there was a picture of a brunette girl. Why would she have another girl as her wallpaper, though? Could this be her girlfriend or something? Nah, I seriously needed to quit overthinking. I'd seen the way she smiled at me. She totally liked me. This probably was just an old picture of her when she had brown hair. Finally, as I was finishing my shift, the phone rang. I cleared my throat, then in my sexiest voice answered with a, "Hey there." Only to my surprise, she started screaming at me, calling me a thief. I tried explaining that she'd got it all wrong, and I'd meet her at the coffee shop to settle things down. She sounded so cranky, and not at all like the mild-mannered girl from earlier. Then again, I would have acted crazy too if I lost my phone. After the shift, me and Jake walked back to the coffee shop, and as we approached the place, I pulled out my phone and called the number earlier to ask where she was waiting. But then I saw a big guy pick up his phone instead. I was terrified, so I shoved Darcy's phone to Jake and told him to go return it. He didn't know anything and excitedly grabbed it and ran over, only to be stopped by that guy in front of the coffee shop. He asked, "Aren't you the one who stole my phone?" Jake was puzzled and looked at me for help, and we just mumbled out that it wasn't, that it was some pretty girl's phone. She left it behind, so we thought we would find some way to give it back to her. Then the man said, "No, it's not any pretty girl's phone. Don't be sly. We've looked at the CCTV and saw what you did. It was a mess. So are you telling me that we couldn't see our dream girl again, but be caught up in this stealing chaos instead? This sucks." Things got even worse when this big guy put Jake in a headlock. Luckily, a woman walked toward him and said, "It's okay, Tim. We can talk this out." Well, he wasn't wrong anyway. I am a pretty girl. I'll take care of it from here. Then she gestured to him to go wait in the car and leave us three alone. She told us her name was Chelsea, and that the scary-looking guy was her younger brother. She gave us a chance to explain what happened. Then she told us what was shown on the surveillance cameras. In the end, we realized what actually happened. While we'd been talking to Darcy at the counter, Chelsea and her brother must have come in and sat at the table Darcy had been at. Then they quickly changed their minds and switched tables, but Chelsea left her phone there by mistake. Once this Chelsea girl realized it was all a misunderstanding, she kept on twirling her hair around her finger, and I'm sure I saw her wink at me. Was she flirting with us? I mean, she was kinda cute, but she's surely older than us, like around 30-ish. Then she said, "So how about we go hang out sometime? As I see it, you owe me a coffee at least." Was she being serious? I couldn't go on a date with her. I don't feel comfortable dating someone that much older than me. And what about Darcy? She's all I had in mind right now. I mean, I could always go and tell my brother that you guys really stole my phone, she smirked. Was she joking or being serious? I didn't know, and I wasn't going to chance it. So I spluttered out, "Sure, coffee will be good." We exchanged phone numbers with her. Later, she texted us to set up the times and places. I didn't want to meet her, so on the day of the date, I phoned Jake up and feigned being sick, and told him he'd have to go alone. To my surprise, he didn't seem to mind. Instead, he sounded excited about it. Then, after the date, he came straight to my dorm, saying he wanted to check up on me, but I knew it's just an excuse. All he did was go on and on with me about how much fun Chelsea was, and that she was rich and stuff, so it wasn't just a simple coffee date. But she took him to this fancy restaurant too. I didn't expect Jake would be like that. I'm glad he enjoyed it though. Anything so I wouldn't have to go on a date with her. This went on for a while, and soon they seemed pretty serious. Whenever Jake spoke about her, he went all gooey eyes. So my boy was in love. She clearly cared about him too, and made it so he didn't have to work at the restaurant anymore. I was happy for Jake. I truly was. And also relieved I didn't have to date Chelsea. But I also felt down about it all. He was in love while my dream girl was out there somewhere, and I didn't know how to find her. And that's when my luck changed. I was at work carrying the drinks over to a table when, to my surprise, I saw that Darcy was sitting there. I must have been gawping at her as she laughed and said, "Hey, the Coke's mine." Blushing, I passed her the Coke, then said, "I don't know if you remember, but we met a few weeks ago in the coffee shop around the corner." "Sure," she smiled. "It's nice to meet you again, coffee boy." She was so cute and sweet. There's no way I could let her slip through my fingers again. So I checked to make sure my boss wasn't looking. Then I asked Darcy for her number. She wrote it on a napkin and passed it to me on her way out. I was so excited I fist-pumped the air. Through our messages, I discovered she just started an internship around the corner, and she really wanted to impress them so they'd offer her an official job. I was happy as this meant I would get to see her loads. Every time she came into the restaurant, I tried my best to make a move with her without letting my boss notice. One time, I gave her a free dessert, then said, "Something sweet for the sweetest girl I know." Cheesy, I know, but girls love that kind of stuff. There were sparks flying everywhere. I knew she felt it too. I just needed to find the courage to ask her out. Then one day, suddenly Chelsea texted me, asking why I never came to see her. I thought this was odd, so I replied that I thought her and Jake were kind of official now. To my surprise, she replied, "Come on, you still haven't properly made it up to me after stealing my phone. You know the cops wouldn't be too happy to hear that either, right? Or I could just tell my brother." I didn't want to get in trouble with either her giant of a brother or the cops, so yeah, I agreed to go on a date with her. We met at the same coffee shop where this whole phone drama started, as she said it was close to her work. This time, she introduced herself as the marketing manager of some big company. Wow, okay, that's impressive for her age. She's beautiful and successful. Maybe I really have been a bit rude to this respectable woman, so I decided to sit back and hear her out. But the next minute, she was like, "Austin, I've loved you since first sight." She grabbed my hand. "Jake's a sweet guy, but he's not you." What? She didn't even know me. She was crazy. And how could she do this to Jake? Then suddenly a group of people walked into the cafe. She said they were her employees and waved them over. Then told them, "Everyone, this is my boyfriend Austin." I glared at her, but I had no choice but to awkwardly greet everyone just to get it over with as quick as possible. But then I saw a familiar face in the crowd. No way.
"Hey, Alex." I felt someone tap on my shoulder. I turned around to see who it was and, it was Roxy, my crush, who also happened to be the most beautiful girl in the world. I figured I must have been in her way, so I quickly mumbled out, "Sorry," and stepped aside. But out of my surprise, she smiled at me and said, "So, a little birdie told me you like me? You know, I think it's cute you haven't made a move on me yet, not like most of the guys around here." I stared at her open-mouthed. Was I dreaming? I pinched myself to check. Nope, this was real. So I nodded my head and muttered out, yeah? "My friend's having a party at their frat house on Wednesday. You want to come?" Before I could reply, her friend Luke appeared, and grinning, he said, "Yeah, you just gotta come to this party." Roxy hit his arm while giving him a dirty look, then smiled at me. "So it's at number 19, starts at 9 p.m. I'll see you then?" I nodded in response, and she said, "Great, see you there." Then she winked at me before she walked off. So yeah, I'm Alex, your average second-year college student. And this is the story about how my crush tried to lure me into a seriously sinister trap. I guess I'm a normal guy. I'm not as rich and popular as the kids from the frat houses are. Instead, my room is in the regular dorms, and although I'm not ugly or unpopular or anything, I'm easily overlooked. So I kept my crush on Roxy a secret because she was way out of my league. She was so beautiful, this was crazy. How did she even find out that I liked her? I couldn't believe that she'd asked me out. This was mad. At first, I felt like the luckiest guy ever. But then as I watched Roxy walk back to her friends, I noticed them giggling, except for this one girl called Sophie. Meanwhile, Luke was making everyone high-five him. He was always a little odd, and he spoke to people in strange ways. Then I caught Sophie's eye, and she gave me a look that said, "Don't." Then she promptly looked away. Her jerky boyfriend Jack had his arm around her shoulder and was tugging on one of her trademark pigtails as he glugged back his drink. I had no idea what she saw in him. But what had her look been about? Back in my dorm, I discussed it with my roommate Ben, and he said it sounded like a setup. As much as I wanted it to be legit, my gut instinct was also saying that it was too good to be true. So the night of the party, I decided to take a look out my dorm window, as it's in the perfect location to get a clear view of the frat houses. I counted the houses down to number 19. Then I took out my binoculars, for which I used for field research studies, to take a closer look. The house had a large rainbow pride flag hanging from the two windows. This made me wonder why Roxy would want to go to a gay party. I saw a lot of feminine dressed men, and the only two girls that I could spot were far from attractive. And it seemed like they were a couple. And then there was Luke in the front yard holding 2 drinks and looking around like he was waiting for someone. Where was Roxy? I decided to check her social media to see if she'd posted anything. And I noticed she'd left her location open. She was in a nightclub, Diego's. That was strange. So I gave the party a miss, and instead Ben and I went to a student bar. I told him about it, and he said it sounded like I dodged a bullet. The next day I was sitting with Ben and some of my other friends in the canteen when Roxy stormed over to me and yelled out, "How dare you stand me up? Who do you think you are?" Luke appeared and said, "Yeah, why not show?" I just shrugged and said, "Roxy, I know you weren't there. Your phone location's public. You were at Diego's." She hesitated, then said, Yeah, my friend borrowed my phone. But what you did was so creepy, you stalker." As if. Roxy was never without her phone, so I wasn't buying her story. This whole thing didn't make any sense, so I sort of mouthed out, "Whatever, Roxy," then carried on eating my lunch. After that, she started making my life a living hell. She told everyone that I was stalking her, so random students started coming up to me and telling me to leave her alone. Then someone covered the dorm corridors in leaflets with a picture of my face and the word "stalker" written across them. I knew Roxy was behind it. It was so weird. But Luke was worse. One time after class, he sneaked up on me, grabbed my arm, and said, "Hey Alex, why you bail on my party?" I told him that I saw the party from a distance and it wasn't my thing, so he replied, "Hey, you got a probs with me being gay?" I shook my head and told him I didn't, but he still wouldn't let go of my arm. I was relieved when he finally let go of me, and I hurried back to my dorm. On the way, I spotted Sophie sitting outside on the shared bathroom. Hang on, why was she in the flood of tears? I asked her if she was okay, but she told me to go away. Although I didn't want to put my nose where it shouldn't be. But I wasn't heartless, so I left her my bottle of water before I walked off. I said, "If you want to talk about it, I'm here for you." I was unlocking my dorm room when I heard someone cough behind me. I turned around to see Sophie standing there. She thanked me for the water and she said she wanted to talk. I led her into my room and she sat on my bed. And staring at her feet, she said in tears, "I caught Jack and Roxy by the locker rooms, but when I confronted them about it, they just shooed me away." I sat down next to Sophie and hugged her. This was horrible. It looks like I've been so wrong about Roxy. She wasn't my dream girl at all. Instead, she was a nightmare. Sophie continued, "It gets worse. Roxy stole my assignment and submitted it as her own. It's due tomorrow and I don't have the time to write a new one." She started crying again. I passed her a tissue and said, "We'll sort this out. There's no way she's getting away with it. That's horrible." So I told her to send an email to the college dean and to her course tutor explaining what happened. She'd attached the original assignment and all the notes she'd written about it. They both got back to us within minutes and said that they would look into this. Sophie looked so delighted, but then suddenly her smile dropped, and she fiddled with one of her pigtails as she said, "Alex, there's something I need to tell you. Please don't hate me." Then she told me how the party Roxy had invited me to had been a trap. Roxy found out I had a crush on her, and she was embarrassed that an average guy like me dared to have feelings toward her. And she was adamant she needed to teach me a lesson. So that's when Luke said he would help, as he wanted to add me to his collection, so they hatched a plan. Roxy invited me to the party, and Luke was waiting for me with a spiked drink. Apparently, this was Roxy's way of silencing me, and making sure I didn't look at her in the same way ever again. Whoa, this was so dark. I shivered at the thought of what could have been. It was terrifying. Sophie also told me that she begged Roxy not to do this, but she got her friends to hold her down. Then she told her that if she intervened, they'd make her suffer. I comforted Sophie and told her that it wasn't her fault, I knew I couldn't just stay quiet on this, as they could do this to some poor other guy who dared to have a crush on her. So with Sophie's help, we wrote a letter to the dean and to the college security about what had happened. This wasn't going to be taken lying down. Sophie was terrified that Roxy and her friends would come after her, so I invited her back to my hometown for the weekend to get away from everyone and let things cool down. When we arrived back at college, news spread that Roxy had been expelled for stealing another student's work. As for Luke, the cops raided his frat house and found loads of banned substances hidden in there. It was so serious that it went to court, and they ended up in jail. As for Jack, he tried to guilt-trip Sophie as to why she should get Roxy expelled for dumb reasons, but she stopped talking to him anyway. I often think back to the night of the party and what could have been. My life would have been ruined, and what for? All because I dared to have a crush on a beautiful girl. I say good riddance. Some good has come out of this whole mess. Sophie and I grew closer and started dating. Now we've both graduated, and that's not all. We have 2 amazing kids together. I love my beautiful family with all my heart, and I just want to protect them from all the bad in this world. So in short, I don't think that just because you're beautiful, rich, and popular, that you get to get away with doing whatever you please. Regardless of age, sex, looks, and so on, everyone deserves to be treated with respect and compassion.
Hi, that's me, Maxine, hiding behind some bushes and spying on a girl. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a crush on her, nor am I a total psychopath. I'm just doing a favor for my mate Damon. But if I'd known how crazy this was all going to get, I'd never have agreed to help him. It all started when Damon fell in love with this girl, Sophie. She had this mysterious charm that made him want to talk to her right away. And he did. She didn't even glance at him. She just walked away. Ouch. I didn't like her one bit. She was so stuck up. But Damon didn't give up that easily. He tried all kinds of tricks to get her attention, even waiting for the bus with her, even though he had a car. Nothing worked, though, and this made him miserable. He begged for my help, but I said, "No way." Then he said, "Aw, come on, Maxine, you're a girl, so just befriend her or something. Maybe you can find out what she likes, her fave foods, music, etc. Then I can try to impress her. Please, I'm begging you. I'll even lend you my Nintendo Switch for a month if you agree. You can't say no to that." He had me at that. I'd do anything to get a Nintendo Switch. Fine, it's a deal, but don't blame me if it doesn't work. So after class that day, I searched for Sophie. She was at the bus stop, and I was about to approach her when suddenly she walked away. I decided to follow her, and on the way, she stopped to help an old lady cross the road. Wow, I was surprised. For someone with such a cold face, she had a pretty warm heart. Maybe she wasn't so bad after all. After that, she started walking towards the park, and by then it was starting to get dark. What was she doing? She sat down on a bench in a creepy part of the park, almost like she was waiting for someone. I hid behind a bush so she wouldn't see me, but I was totally freaked out. Suddenly, 2 guys appeared and started talking to her, but they didn't seem like her acquaintances. Oh my gosh, she looked panicked. I had to help. I quickly shouted, "Help! Officer, please help! There are 2 guys bothering us!" Obviously, there was no officer, but it worked. The 2 guys ran off, and I rushed over to make sure Sophie was okay. She was surprised to see me, but then she hugged me and thanked me for saving her. Her whole body was shaking. She must have been terrified. I walked with her back to our dorm, and she told me how she liked to come to the park at night because it was so peaceful. I told her it was clearly dangerous and that she probably shouldn't go alone anymore. Then we exchanged numbers, and after that we became quite close. Close enough. That was a few days later. I told her Damon had a big crush on her and asked if she'd maybe go on a date with him, but she just shook her head and said she wasn't ready. Her eyes looked sad, so I didn't push it any further. Maybe she'd just gone through a bad breakup? I didn't ask her again, but one night I was heading to her dorm for a movie night when I heard 2 people fighting. It was Sophie and some guy, and she was crying. It looked like the guy was about to hit her, so I ran over and said, "Hey, what the heck do you think you're doing? Leave her alone or I'll call the cops." He just laughed at me and said to Sophie, "We're not done yet." Then he stormed off. I asked Sophie if she was okay and who that guy was. Then she told me how he was her ex and that he kept trying to get back together with her, but she wasn't interested. As she told me this, she started to cry and said, "Because of him, I've become so scared and anxious. I'm even too scared to sleep at night." I felt so sorry for her and told her I was here for her and that she could call me anytime. Well, maybe I shouldn't have said that, because that's exactly what she started doing. Every night she'd call me, and we'd end up chatting until 3 a.m. I was so exhausted, but I wanted to help her. She seemed so anxious all the time. Damon knew we chatted a lot, but he'd stopped asking about Sophie. It seems he'd lost interest and was more worried about me looking like a zombie from The Walking Dead. "You seriously need some sleep, Maxine. Leave Sophie be. She's clearly got issues. It's probably best to not get too involved." Easier said than done, though. But that night I decided not to answer her call. I went to bed early, and when I woke up the next morning, I had about 20 missed calls and 50 texts from her. Oh my gosh! Some of them said she was so lonely and that I'd abandoned her. Then one said, "If you don't pick up, then I will end it all." Okay, this was crazy. I immediately called her, but she wouldn't pick up. I rushed to her dorm, but nobody answered. I was panicking by then and bashing on the door, screaming, "Sophie, open this darn door!" But there was still no answer. I was terrified she'd done something bad, so I asked some students to help me bash down the door, and that's when she opened the door. I've never been so happy to see someone alive. I ran over to hug her, but she looked so annoyed. "What are you doing here? You're making a scene," she said. "What? I was so worried about you. You said you were going to..." But she interrupted me and said, "You need to get some sleep, Maxine. You seem insane." I couldn't believe it. After all those calls and texts, she was the insane one, not me. I didn't feel like yelling back, so I just left her. I needed some space. She tried to apologize to me over the next few days, but I didn't want to be around her. She even texted me saying if I wouldn't be her friend anymore, then life wasn't worth living. I was so tired of her threats, so I just ignored them. And then things got worse. A few days later, Damon and I were studying together when Sophie called me and said she was in the hospital. She told me that she had a brain tumor and they'd just done a biopsy to see if it was malignant or benign. I couldn't believe it. She asked me if I could pick her up, and I said, of course. This was so scary. I told Damon, and he just said, "I think she's making it up, Maxine. How could she suddenly have a tumor? You guys just had a fight, and suddenly she's in the hospital? Come on, think about it." I was shocked. "Damon, how could you? You're such a jerk." Then I ran off and arrived at the hospital to find Sophie sitting outside wearing a hospital cap. She said her hair had been shaved off for the biopsy, and I asked to see the scar, but she wouldn't show me. She said she'd get a headache if she took it off. I was just glad that she was okay, and gave her a ride home. We made up, and I decided to look after her for the day. She seemed so weak. I couldn't bear to see her suffering. I called Damon to tell him that he owed me an apology and told him about Sophie. And he just said, "Oh, wow, okay, sorry, hope she's okay then." But then a few days later, he called me and said, "Listen, Maxine, Sophie's a liar. She didn't have a biopsy. I bumped into her earlier and her cap fell off, and she has a full head of hair under there. No way it would grow back that fast." Why would she lie to me? I didn't get it. I needed to know the truth, so after class I went to her dorm. She opened the door right away, and sure enough, she had all her hair intact. She probably knew Damon had told me, and so hadn't even bothered to keep up the lie. This made me furious. Straight away, I started shouting at her. "Honestly, Sophie, what is wrong with you? Why would you pretend to be sick like that? Friends don't do that." Sophie grabbed my hand and said, "Maxine, I'm sorry. I was desperate. I only did it because I missed you and wanted you to care about me again. I took it too far, though. Please forgive me." "Are you crazy?" I screamed. "I was worried sick about you. Are you sure there's not something wrong with you?" Sophie started grinning in a weird way and said, "The only thing wrong with me is that I'm in love with you, Maxine." She wouldn't let go of my hand, and I just stared in shock. What did you say? You heard me. I love you. Then she started to manically laugh and said, I've loved you since the day we first met. I knew you were following me, so I pretended to be in danger so you'd come rescue me. Even my ex-boyfriend was fake. He was just one of my friends pretending. Can't you see? I'm willing to do just about anything to get your attention. If that's not love, then what is? This couldn't be happening. I tried to stay as calm as possible and said, Listen, Sophie, I'm flattered. Really, I am. But I'm straight. I see you as just a friend, okay? But Sophie wouldn't give up. She grabbed my hands again and said, How do you know that? You didn't even try to love me yet. Just give me a chance, and I'll show you what true love looks like. I tried to let go of her hands, but it was impossible. Sophie grabbed my hands tighter and tighter that it even began to hurt. She looked me in the eyes, and oh my God, it's like I couldn't recognize her anymore. She looked like a crazy person, like a psychopath. Then she began to speak in a really creepy tone. You can't get away from me. You're mine now. I was so scared. I needed to get out of here, so I pushed her really hard that she fell on the ground, and I ran like a mad woman out of there until I was back in my dorm. Then I called the police, but by the time they reached her dorm, she was gone. I told them what happened and showed them a photo of her, and you won't believe it. Apparently, I wasn't the only girl Sophie had attacked. There were other girls, too. After that night, I was terrified. Everywhere I went, it felt like someone was watching me. Then one evening, after my shift at work, I was walking through the park back to my dorm when I heard someone up ahead. I knew right away it was Sophie, but she wasn't alone. She was with some guys. They spotted me and started heading towards me. But I ran as fast as I could, and luckily the police were just outside the park and went in and arrested them. Sounds like a coincidence, right? Well, it wasn't. Sophie's not the only one who can fool people. I knew Sophie was stalking me, so I told the police, and together we created this plan to catch her, and voila, it worked. Sophie, if you're watching this, I wish you all the best, but let's not meet ever again. That's enough stalking for one lifetime.
Hi, I'm Kate, and I'm doing something totally thrilling. I'm running away. Just picturing my parents' worried faces makes me smile. Why, you ask? They deserve it for trying to send me, their beloved only daughter, to some disgusting girls' boarding school. Yuck! No parties, the grossest uniform, bossy supervisors, and no hot-muscled guys. Ooh! That place is for nerds, not me. An it girl and the founder of Clique Chic, our school's exclusive group for the hottest, most sought-after girls. To be a part of the club, you must be really fashionable, you know? I'm talking about a wardrobe full of the latest designer must-haves, manicured nails, and the glossiest hair. Only girls as dazzling as us can make the school hallway our catwalk stage. As one of us, your life will be filled with endless parties and super cute jocks fighting for your attention. Studying and homework? That's not our thing. Those loser nerds who are chasing after us will take care of it.
Hey, do you know those people?
I looked outside and saw a group of bodyguards who were yelling and trying to force my cab to stop. Ugh, this was so uncalled for. $500 if you can get rid of them. The driver immediately sped up. Ordinary people will do anything for a little bit of money. He dropped me off at a service station, and I quickly snuck inside and hid in the restrooms. Ew! This place was gross. Gosh, those bodyguards were loitering about outside so no one could leave or enter without them seeing. How tragic. This was so stupid. All my parents needed to do was let me stay at home for the summer. But no, they sent those bodyguards after me to ruin my life. Suddenly, a cubicle door flung open and knocked into me. Ouch! Are you blind? What are those glasses even for? I'm sorry. The girl quickly apologized, then she bent down to pick her fallen stuff up. But when she looked up, I gasped in shock. Holy guacamole! What in the world? She looked exactly like me, I mean, at least her face did. Her style was disgusting and old-fashioned. Ew. But given my dire situation, I came up with an amazing idea. Okay, so this is weird. Do you want to make some money? And I mean a lot of money? She gave me this dumbfounded look. Ew, I hope I didn't get frown lines like she did when I screwed up my face. They were ghastly. I have a really lucrative job for you. As you can see, we have similar faces. Freaky, but fortunate. So I need you to pretend to be me and live my rich life for a month or two. Here's my Twitter account. Just skim through it. You can learn everything about me there. It should be enough for you to play the part and avoid my family's suspicion. And here's your payment. I rifled through my bag and handed her the rest of the cash. Jeez, this must be a huge amount for her, as her eyes lit up like she was seeing money for the first time, and she immediately took it. We quickly exchanged clothes, and as instructed, she went outside to hand herself over to the bodyguards. Freedom! Now bring on one long, hot summer of fun. But first, I have to go shopping. Wearing these old-fashioned, disgusting clothes made me want to puke. Oh no! My parents have locked all of my credit cards. I can't even buy a soya milk iced latte now. Oof! How could my parents be so cruel? The worst part is, I had stupidly given all my cash and my phone to that girl. With no other options left, I reluctantly searched the girl's bag. A few old-fashioned clothes, some stupid books, and an unbranded lipstick? Huh? Was that all? How can people live like this? But, what's this? In her small notebook was a train ticket and an offer letter to work at Homestay Allen. So, looks like she's going there for a summer job. Hopefully that homestay has a bath with scented candles and a pool for me to sunbathe by. I need to work on my tan. I was glad to get off that flea-ridden thing and breathe in some fresh air. Now where was my ride? There was a short, chubby old man holding a board with the name Clara on it. The name on the train ticket was Clara. So this meant he was here for me? He didn't even have flowers with him, and he could have at least combed his hair. So, turns out that's Danny, the manager and owner of the homestay. Honestly, if it wasn't for the circumstances, I would never have set foot in this stupid place. Oh, how the day got worse. Without even being allowed to rest my weary feet, Danny gave me work. Housekeeping. It was a joke, wasn't it? My nails were not made for menial jobs. Life here was horrible. I had to get up so stupidly early that it was still dark out, then clean a dozen dusty old bedrooms. After that, I would do the laundry, dry the towels and bedding, fold them, and arrange them neatly into each room. At noon, I also had to help the chef here, Anna, prepare lunch, and I was also forced to wash a mountain of gross dishes. I had never done such silly chores like this at home. Instead, they were always done for me. Didn't expect them to be this exhausting.
You should put them in order, so they won't break.
Ugh, where did this nosy guy come from? Are you lecturing me? I replied crankily and walked away. Suddenly, oh no! This was the 9th time I'd broken stuff since I'd arrived here, and that wasn't counting my poor broken nails. I quickly bent down to clean up, but ouch! I cut my finger on one of the pieces. The guy quickly ran over and bandaged my wound.
Bond, that's my name.
Huh? What's this? Did he just wink at me? My heart was pounding. I mean, he was cute. Yeah, he was really cute. I'm Clara.
Go do something else. Leave this to me.
Realizing that I'd been staring at Bond for a while, I hurriedly got up and rushed to the kitchen.
Nice to meet you, Clara. I'm your new colleague.
Well, that's not so bad. At least I have someone to share my workload with and to chat. The next morning, I was cleaning the floor, half asleep, when Bond came over, put an AirPod in my ear, and winked at me.
Imagine you're dancing. Then you won't feel so tired anymore.
Okay, this sounded kinda lame, but at least no one else was around to see me, so I decided to just go with it. So I gave it a try, with Bond, and I relaxed a little. Well, I didn't expect it to be so much fun. That night, as I was about to turn off the light, I heard a knock at the door. It was Bond. He wanted to show me a secret, so he took my hand and led me to the beach. Yes, we were holding hands, and his hand was really warm. He took me to a sandy beach and shone his flashlight at his feet. Something was moving under the fine white sand. Ew! What was that? I clung to his arm in fear. Aw, little turtles, I exclaimed as they slowly emerged from under the sand.
Yes, they're cute, aren't they? Let's give them a hand. They have to get to the sea before dawn.
I hesitated because I thought this was so stupid.
When the sun rises, they'll be easily spotted and eaten by predators.
Fine. Since Bond pleaded, I had no choice but to sacrifice my sleep to escort the baby turtles to the sea. Why would their mom just abandon her babies like that?
Their mom protected them when they were eggs, and now it's time for them to start fending for themselves. I bet they don't mind. You see, they're all trying their best to crawl towards the sea.
But it was us who helped them.
Then they'll be very grateful to you. And so am I.
Whoa, I'd never felt like this before. It felt like my heart was aching, but in a good way? Thinking about it, I suppose this was the first time I'd ever helped anyone before. Now I kinda understood why my parents did what they did. They just wanted me to be more independent and stop hanging around with those vain, show-off girls. They sure would be pleased if they could see me now, with this sweet and gentle guy. He was the total opposite of the rich boys back home. When I was hurt, he made sure I was okay. He opened my eyes to new experiences, and he didn't try to impress me with dumb flowers and expensive gifts. I've been thinking about Bond all day, and this is the 1001st time I've peeked at him. I think I'll have to confess my feelings before I go crazy. So, that evening, after finishing all my work, I knocked on Bond's door. Huh? Why was a teary-eyed Miss Anna standing there? Then she told me the shocking truth. Bond had left without saying goodbye. Panicked, I walked into the room, but there was nothing left of his. Nothing! No! This couldn't be happening! I hadn't even had a chance to confess yet. The next day, I felt so down. It sucked not having Bond here. But then in my zombie state, I accidentally picked up the newspaper at the front desk. OMG! On the front page was a picture of Bond! God, I couldn't believe it. He was the son of a famous billionaire and they were looking for him. Turns out, I wasn't the only one who'd run away from home. But why did he leave so suddenly? He could have told me the truth. He could have said bye. Ugh! My untold feelings for him felt like an unreachable splinter in my side. I couldn't carry on like this. I needed to find Bond. With my meager salary, I got on the train back to the city, imagining seeing Bond again. This is without a doubt the most nervous I'd ever been in my entire life. It didn't matter how much I pleaded my case and explained that I was Bond's friend. The security guards refused to let me in. I was about to leave when suddenly I saw Bond from afar. He was with a girl. What in the world is this? I tried to strain my eyes to see. My God, isn't that me? No, it's the girl I hired to pretend to be me. What was she doing with Bond? And why did they look so close? Could it be? I arrived to find that he'd turned his bedroom into a mini theater. complete with scented candles and glistening fairy lights. He handed me a bowl of popcorn, and as we nibbled our way to the bottom, a carefully written letter came into sight that said,
I've been in love with you ever since we were little kids. I've held back my feelings as I didn't want to ruin our friendship, but I can't deny them any longer. So, will you be my girlfriend?
How can he be so gorgeous and sweet and...
Hey, dummy! You writing that cheesy stuff again? Just drop it already. Let's go prank Mr. Weasley!
Okay, I'm coming! If only what I wrote came to life. That's my best friend since childhood, Adrian. And as you can see, I have the biggest crush on him. But he only sees me as a bro. How ironic. I'm pretty sure if I confessed my feelings to him, he'd weird it out saying it's gross and stuff. So I just wrote my dream reality down in my novel and posted it on Wattpad. I even used a pen name. I couldn't risk Adrian finding out, 'cause, help, awkward alert. Anyway, it's easier this way, as I didn't want my parents to find out either. Yep, they weren't exactly supportive of my writing career. They wanted me to become a lawyer and take over the family firm just like my dad, and his dad, and blah, blah, blah. They made me study hard so I'd get into this prestigious law school, but it was just so dull and my heart just wasn't into it. One day, as I was sipping a macchiato at my favorite coffee shop, a group of girls walked in chattering excitedly about a book by the new author, Agatha C. Huh? Did I hear them right? Curious, I approached them and politely asked to see the book, and oh my God, it was my pen name right on the cover. I scanned through the first few pages and saw my words. Did this mean my book was published? Ouch! So all this was real. So someone must have given my book to the publisher. Then it's gotta be Mrs. Jensen. Yes! She is the most respected writer and has loads of connections in the publishing industry. And lucky me, she was my mentor. Hi, Mrs. Jensen. I'm just calling to say I'm so grateful for what you've done for me.
Cecilia, calm down. What are you talking about?
The book, of course. Mrs. Jensen, my book got published thanks to you. Right?
You're talking nonsense, young lady. I've barely started reading your book. So how could it have been published without my notice?
What? So, Mrs. Jensen didn't send it? Then who did? What do you mean you can't disclose their identity? It's my book!
Miss, all I can say is that the person who brought it here claims to be the author of the book and chose not to reveal themselves by publishing it under a pen name. We, as the publisher, are legally bound by that, so I can't help you any further.
What on earth was he talking about? Some random person stole my book and my pen name? I needed to prove they were both mine. Aha! My Wattpad page. I tried to log into my account to show the director, but access denied. Oh, no. Someone must have messed with it. I was gonna use it to apply for a writing scholarship at college, and now it was all gone. As if that wasn't bad enough. I suddenly received an email from the writing competition I'd applied for, saying they denied my entry due to plagiarism of a Wattpad page. My Wattpad page! Ugh!
Sup, bro? What's with the King Kong face? Oh, come on. You'll be less of an ugly duckling if you smile more. See?
My gosh, could he just stop being like that for once? He made it very clear we had zero chance of being together. I got it, but he didn't have to rub it in my face like that. Fine then. He'd never have to see me again. After that, I was determined to transfer to another school by the next semester, one that would appreciate my writing talent. Somewhere like Eastwood Academy. It's a school full of literature records. Besides, I happen to know someone there. Lewis, the president of the literature club, and also an uprising star in the writer world. He's not only super talented, but incredibly nice too. He'd help me loads with my novels. But getting into that school would be tough. So, every day, with my game face on, I buried my head under stacks of books, while Adrian tried his best to distract me. One time, he told me to ditch class and go see the new Batman movie with him. I'd waited months for that movie. But no, I'd got to get my head in the game. Adrian didn't give up that easily, though. Only, right at that moment, the teacher appeared behind his back, yanked his ears, and gave him a ticket to the detention room. There went the Batman movie for him. Another time, he came up with a prank for Mr. Jones, the PE teacher who made him run 10 laps around the school for being late. But, sorry, the new Cecilia ain't got time for any of his childish stuff. So when Adrian gave me Mr. Jones's phone and told me to hide it away, I just calmly handed it back to him. As Mr. Jones returned to the teacher lounge, he saw Adrian pouring some liquid into his tumbler, and that's how Adrian got himself 2 detention tickets. After that, Adrian finally noticed that I had been acting differently.
Cece, what is up with you? You keep ignoring me. Are we not friends anymore?
Don't call me Cece. I'm still mad at you, okay? So, yeah, I want to transfer to Eastwood Academy. You know, Lewis's school.
Oh, I see. Stop the act. I know it already.
What? Did he know that I like him? Had he read my book?
You like Lewis.
Huh? Oh. Phew. But hang on. He really thought that? And was he annoyed? Interesting. Yep. In fact, he asked me out to dinner this Saturday.
Really? Okay then. I'll go with you. Can't trust this guy.
And so Adrian tagged along. He kept complaining about how I dressed up all pretty for Lewis and how he had the nerve to be late. So this is what he's like when he's jealous? Kinda cute, though. As Lewis arrived, he gave me a big hug, and I could feel Adrian's glare behind my back. I sat close to Lewis and giggled at everything he said. He immediately got what I was trying to do, so he acted along, putting his arm around my shoulder and slightly stroking my hair. At one point, I even helped Lewis take a fallen eyelash out. And oh boy, Adrian couldn't help but lunge forward to separate us. Right at that moment, I heard a familiar voice from behind.
Cecilia? And who are these young men? Lewis?
Oh, hi, Mrs. Jensen. What a small world. You know Lewis, too? She didn't answer my question. Instead, she gave me a stern look, then dragged me outside.
Cecilia, what are you doing with that no-good traitor?
You mean Lewis?
Who else? He was heavily criticized and boycotted by the whole writers' community. I strongly suggest you give him a wide berth.
Oh my. I had no idea Lewis had such a bad reputation. He was always so kind to me, unless this was just an act because he wanted something, like my novel. What if he was the one who stole it? This was not good. I rushed back to my table, quickly said goodbye to Adrian, then dragged Lewis away. Did you or did you not steal my book?
What? No! Did Mrs. Jensen tell you that?
Turns out, he used to be Mrs. Jensen's brightest mentee. Then he fell in love with her daughter Demi, and they started dating behind her back. But then out of the blue, Demi suddenly broke up with him. Heartbroken, he cut all ties with her and her mom. But Mrs. Jensen took offense at this and had been on his back ever since. Gosh, now my head was spinning. I had no idea who to trust.
Come to think of it, back in my mentee months, I also lost one of my manuscripts. I sort of ran into a dead end with that one, so I didn't do any digging, but it can't be a coincidence, right? It must have been Mrs. Jensen who stole them.
No way! She's an incredible writer. Why would she do something like that?
There's no better explanation for this. Don't worry. I've got a plan to expose her for the stinking thief she is.
He then called the publisher, pretending to be some big-shot producer, and asked them to arrange a meeting with the author of my stolen book, as he'd like to produce a high-budget movie based on it. Brilliant, isn't it? We arrived at the rendezvous in awesome disguises and waited for this to play out. Our tension rose as the footsteps got closer. And then, standing at the door was, well, Mrs. Jensen. How could you? I trusted you!
Cecilia? What's going on?
Oh, drop the act. There's no movie. We only planned this trap to expose you for the book thief you are. Mrs. Jensen persistently denied our accusations and claimed she was only here because her daughter arranged a big surprise for her. Then Lewis and Mrs. Jensen started quarreling with each other and it all got messy. Stop! Both of you, please just stop!
Demi, please explain yourself.
It was me, okay? I stole your book, Cecilia. I saw it on Mom's desk. I'm so sorry.
I don't understand. You don't need to steal someone else's hard work. You already are an excellent writer.
No, Mom, I'm not. I've tried so hard to meet your expectations, but I just can't. I didn't want to disappoint you, so I stole your mentee's work, including yours, Lewis. I was so ashamed of myself I couldn't face you after that. I'm so sorry. Lewis let out a long sigh, then pulled Demi in for a hug and comforted her. Right at that moment, Adrian barged in and grabbed Lewis's collar.
You jerk! You were flirting with Cecilia a day ago, and now you're canoodling with another girl right in front of her?
Adrian, stop! It's not what you think. Then I led him out of the restaurant. Turns out he saw me leaving the house with Lewis looking all weird, so he decided to follow us here. The truth is, I don't have a crush on Lewis. I was just trying to see if you think of me as more than just a friend.
Well, I do like you. Like, a lot. But I don't want to risk our friendship. I can't bear the thought of not having you in my life, so I figured it'd be best to treat you as one of the guys.
Guess what? I like you too, idiot. So, what do you say?
Yeah, let's give it a shot. But you have to promise me if things don't work out, we'll still be friends, okay?
Promise. Then we pinky swore just like when we were little kids. Only this time, he pulled me in for the best kiss ever. Finally, my book's mine again. And guess what? It has just become the #1 bestseller novel according to the New York Times. Ah! This calls for a celebration. Adrian, will you help me with the guest list for the party?
Sure, sweetie. Who do you want to invite?
Now, let's see. There's my parents, who were so impressed with my independent work that they're now letting me follow my writing dreams. There's also Lewis and Demi. Aw, they make such a cute couple. Demi decided to start over with her writing career, this time without the pressure from her mom. And with Lewis's help, she's got a bright future ahead. And last but not least, Mrs. Jensen, who's now fully supportive of her daughter's career and her relationship with Lewis. I guess it's a happy ending for both my novel, me,